I shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. It's an old spiritual classic done by Mississippi John Hurt and many others. Now when you're playing this sort of music, the most important thing to figure out first, no matter what the song or the style, is the bass, because the bass is your foundation. Without a foundation, you can't build much of anything. Now, this song and many like it are based solely on 3 or 4 chords. This one's only 3. And if you don't already know these progressions, I recommend you learn and familiarize yourself with the 1-4-5 progression. That is to say, the first chord of whatever key you're in. We're going to say we're in C, even though I have a capo on the 2nd fret, making it technically D. C is what we're going to call the chords. So we have a C, an F, and a G are the main chords we're working with. So I suggest if you don't already know these chords, familiarize yourself with them, and then come back to learning this style, which, while somewhat intricate with the right hand, the left hand is merely fingering these chords with occasional walking in the bass and the melody. So anyway, when you hear a song you want to learn to play, isolate the bass. You don't have to do it exactly the way the recorded artist does it, because interpretation is half the fun of folk music. So for this tune, we're going to start with the bass, and it's nice to have the bounce back and forth between the C note and the G note, the root note, kind of giving us the bouncing, that kind of thing. I suggest working on that for a while. Be able to just play consistently, almost automatically, without even thinking about it. You want to be able to talk over it, think about what you had for lunch, what you're going to have for dinner, think about anything. And then you can start to think of the chord changes and imagine the melody. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit, and we'll sing the melody. Why not sing it before we play it? Let's sing the melody with the chord changes. So we have I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Now granted, I'm not the world's greatest singer, but I think you can pick up the gist of the melody. So don't even worry about picking the melody until you've got the bass down and can comfortably hum, or if you're not comfortable humming or singing, at least imagine the melody. Because if you're hitting the right bass notes, or if you're at least changing between the right chords, you'll be able to sort of hear the melody without it even being there. And that is the combination of the two, the bass and the melody, are what make this music fun and make it sound like there's more than one guitar playing. It's basically the magic of fingerstyle guitar, is incorporating bass and melody at the same time. So without any syncopation, or that is without any playing off the beat, but simply playing on the beat, I'm going to show you very slowly the bass with the melody, and then I'll isolate the melody, because it's important to learn that as well, and then we'll put them together. And there are many other things to talk about as far as technique, right hand technique, left hand posture, using your thumb, but this is just sort of a brief overview. So with the melody, very simply, slowly and without any syncopation, you'll sort of have something like this. Tag at the end is something a lot of traditional music uses, everything from blues to bluegrass and everything in between. You'll find those little tags, which we'll get to another time. So that was a very straightforward version of the melody, and isolating it even further without the bass will give us something like this. Now, these are very simple melodies. They usually only involve a handful of notes, maybe just a few more than there are chords, just a few more notes than there are chords in the song. So the left hand being put down aside, we're going to, well, not being put aside, but without having to finger the chords entirely, the melody will sound something like this. It'll be... Okay, now that might sound a little funny without the bass and a little empty, because it is. Like I said earlier, the bass is the most important thing in constructing or interpreting one of these folk blues tunes. So I'm going to play again a little more quickly the bass with the melody, and this is something you have to take very slowly at first. You can think of it as a series of pinches between the bass and the melody notes, but it's nice to think of them as two separate lines that come together. So a little more quickly though, and without too much syncopation, it'll sound a little like this. So that's a very brief overview to dissecting particularly the tune I Shall Not Be Moved, but this can be applied to any song, and once you've kind of got a knack for learning the bass or figuring out the bass, you can slowly begin to incorporate the melody, and then you can have some more fun with the melody and you can make it bounce a little bit more and have it be a little bit more reminiscent of a human voice. So finally I'll show you what this song might sound like if it were to be performed and if it were being interpreted fully, at least by me. We'd have something a little more bouncy that would sound like this. So that's just a way to get started, and there's much more to learn, but I think that'll give you something to work on.